Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone for being here this morning. My name is Sharon Leitner, and I'm the new incoming Dean of COBA. And I'm just really excited to be here because this program sort of represents everything that I believe in. I'm going to be rolling out different themes for the faculty at our upcoming COBA-cation. Did I get that right, Carrie? But to me, the biggest theme that we have in the College of Business is that we're so fortunate to have a professional community to which we're tied. The community is being the professionals and the faculty and the students all working together. And I can't think of a greater example than senior experience. This is our 20th year of senior experience of COBA, and I don't know anyone, any other university in the county or the state that has such a great program. And what makes it great are having projects and sponsors like you guys and faculty advisors. And the only missing piece right now is the students, but I guess we'll all be getting to have plenty of opportunity to interact with the students as well. None of this would be possible without all the work that Jim Hammerly does for this project. And when I first heard that there's sort of one main person running this program that finds all the projects, matches the students to the projects and everything, I'm thinking, wow. And this person isn't working for a med school in the matching program. But Jim, thank you for all you do, and I'll let you take over. But once again, I just want to thank the advisors for being here, faculty advisors and the sponsors, and just reiterate our tagline that we train your future business leaders and employees. So thank you for helping us in that goal.
Here, we're doing a little experiment to see if we can video record this session, and it basically tracks the speakers. Well, thank you so much for coming. Particularly, I want to thank the sponsors for those of you that chose to come, and also we have a couple sponsor speakers which you'll be introduced to in a couple of minutes that will tell you a little bit about their projects. Also, if you are an advisor to a potential team, if you could raise your hand. These are faculty members, professionally qualified people. Please make sure you get to meet one of them. So the advisors are folks that work with your student team. They meet with them once a week, and I'll explain the program in just a minute, and basically act as kind of managed from the side is the way we describe it. So real quickly, I'm going to try to go through the program in brief order, tell you a little bit, just to remind you, most of you have heard this before, but remind you what the mechanics of the program and what is expected of you, some best practices, and then we have three sponsors who have sponsored projects in the past to tell you a little bit about what has worked, what hasn't worked, equally importantly, from their perspective in a successful project. And then we'll have an open session of Q&A where you can comment. We have a lot of repeat sponsors actually in the audience and quite a few new ones. So we'll go through this pretty quickly. As you know, what we do is we match a project, business problem, business opportunity that you have, some organizational need that you have to a consulting team of students. So they act not as employees, not as interns, but as consultants working for you. They'll come with a letter of engagement, kind of a draft poor man's consulting agreement, and that's negotiated between you and them based on what you've written in your sponsor application and what you and I have negotiated. And that becomes their working document. So we do charge $1,500 and you'll be invoiced for that after you've been assigned a team. There's a 98% chance you'll be assigned to a team. Every once in a while we'll have a project that we don't have a good skills match for. In those cases, we'll defer a semester. We apologize for that in advance, but we want to make sure that we get something that's of value to you. Of course, there's strict confidentiality. The students do sign a non-disclosure agreement, basically holding all the information that you share with them. It could be financial data, customer lists, whatever. You own all the IP that's generated by a project. We don't have the right to reuse, republish, whatever. And we keep one master copy of the final data and report. We can release it only to you or to a third party with your approval. So we do have that archived should you lose your copy of the report. We do have a money-back guarantee if for any reason you're not happy. This is kind of funny only because most sponsors, for some sponsors, frankly, $1,500, particularly nonprofits, that's a tough haul to come up with that money. We think it's a great value. It's $1.50 an hour. I mean, you can't beat it. And so one of the things we're working with Sharon on is we need to extract more value, financial value to the college, given our financial situation, out of the program. So that's something we could talk about maybe at some future time. But it is a great value and we do want only satisfied sponsors. If you're dissatisfied for any reason, we have done repeat projects, weren't happy with the results, could we try again next semester? We generally don't like to do that, but we have done it on occasion. So a team is 4 or 5 students. They're all graduating seniors in the College of Business. It is a required course. It's the most significant course they will take in terms of time commitment and number of units. They're expected to spend between 15 and 20 hours each a week. So over the semester, it sum totals about 1,000 hours roughly. And then, as I mentioned before, the advisors, some of whom are in the audience today, provide additional help. So independent of any meetings you have with your team, the advisor to the team will meet with that team once a week for about an hour. And again, the hope there is that they'll manage from the side, lead from the side. The advisor's role is not to drive the project. The students are responsible for ownership and execution. So starting next Thursday, actually before then, students are starting to review projects now, but next Thursday is our first class. By then they will have read all the project descriptions, understood who the advisor that's assigned to a project, and then they will indicate the number of projects that they are able to complete and their preferences. So we have a list of here are the projects we're able to complete, here are our preferences. They indicate their top 5 preferences based on their skills. We have a complete inventory of their skills and work background, and basically we do the matching project to a team. That happens in a very short period of time, roughly 24 hours, and unfortunately we don't give you the chance, something we are thinking about, to actually interview the team with doing roughly 40 to 50 projects a semester in the period of time that we have. That's a virtual impossibility. So this seems to be working, but always looking for feedback. You'll be notified on or about the 1st of September. You'll be identified who's your advisor to the team member, all the contact information. In the next 48 hours, you'll also get a listing of my best estimate of what your project actually is. So you'll review that, make sure we have everything, all the ends tied up, any questions about who's going to be the sponsor contact, and so on and so forth. And then by 9/1, you'll hear from me as to who your assigned team is, assuming you get an assigned team. Your first team meeting will be on or early in the week of September 10th. We ask that you try to make yourself available early in that week. The team will contact you once assigned to set up that first meeting. We suggest, unless you work out of your home, that you have that first meeting at your work location. Set up a conference room. Expect to spend a couple of hours with a team. The primary purpose of that meeting is, number one, to get to know you. If you have a large installation, large facility, give them a tour, tell them a little bit about what you do. Hopefully they will drive that meeting. They'll come with an agenda and a draft letter of engagement, which tells kind of here's what you've asked us to do, here's a preliminary project plan, a timeline, and our deliverables. And the hope is at the end of that first meeting, the team, yourself, and their advisor will have a common shared understanding of what the project is. They'll go off and think about it, come back within a week with a revised letter of engagement. The hope is at that point everybody understands what the project is, everybody signs it, and at that point, theoretically, the team should be able to complete the project on their own. We don't advise doing that, but that's what should happen in the ideal case. Done over 1,300 projects. We'll hit close to 1,385 this semester, I think. Run over 5,000 students through the program, roughly 1.6 million hours of community service. And you'll see the location. This is actually about a 5-year-old map. A lot of projects, particularly along the 78, up and down the 15. Done projects as far away as Thailand. We've done state of New York, state of California. So we can do virtual projects. The only real requirement, there are actually 3 requirements. One requirement, it has to have business value to you. We don't do make-work projects. Has to be completable and require the skill set that a student team can provide, which is a judgment call, I guess, on my part. And then you have to have at least one face-to-face meeting with a team. So the Thailand guy had to fly to the United States, real excited about the project, completed it, and then the rest of the team meetings were virtual. Roughly 95% of all projects judged to be successful. This is just from last semester. Overall, I'm satisfied with the Senior Experience Program. strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. We did have one dissatisfied sponsor last semester. We did give them their money back. They chose not to answer the survey. So this is looks a little bit biased by positive, but we'll just leave it at that. I will survey you a week and a half into the project. Did the team meet with you? Did the faculty, the advisors show up? Do you think they're making reasonable progress based on everything you've seen? So it's kind of a test. And then mid-course, and then after the semester is over, after the trade show, you'll get this survey and ask you a bunch of questions. We really ask you to participate in that because it gives me feedback. Believe me, if you send me in a negative survey, I'll be on the phone within 5 minutes. I get notified just like that. So, provided useful results to our organization, strongly agree and agree. And then finally, our organization will likely submit future projects, strongly agree and neutral. We do have people that don't do repeat projects. Small company of one person, $1,500 is a big deal. We do a marketing promotional plans for them, and they're done for a couple of years. We keep them busy. We have a couple sponsors that will come back every 3 years. So real quickly on the timeline, we'll be meeting with a team starting this Thursday. We'll review a couple things. Remember that this is the first time any of them will have done a consulting agreement. So we'll do a draft. What does it mean to be a consultant? How's it different than being an employee? So we review all of that. We do the actual matching. They write a team contract. You've heard a lot of me talk about this. It's really important. It's a contract among themselves. It's about 10 pages long. The most important part of that contract, from my perspective, is consequences for non-performance. So one of the things that's very unusual about this course or program is that student team members can fire a team member for non-compliance. And I mention that only because we tell the team that you're reliant on them for their business results. So you can do a standard project, team project in a class, hand in the report, get it graded, and then it gets on the shelf and nobody ever reads it again. Our hope is to provide business value to you. You count on the results, so we want the team to take it very seriously. Obviously, we are not 100% successful in that, but the idea is to put some teeth in the program. I will tell you that in the 5 years I've run the program or whatever, we've fired a student every semester. So someone always, and that's unfortunate, but it's a consequence. We're trying to make it more real world. So once they've been matched with you as a project sponsor, they will spend a week writing a company profile, kind of a profile of who you are or organization, what you are. They'll do an industry analysis so they know who your competitors are, what business challenges you face. The whole idea is to kind of immerse themselves sort of in your world without having met you yet, so that when they have that first meeting with you on or about September 10th, they have a clue as to what your business is about, and they can have, hopefully, an intelligent conversation about your project. So that's something they will complete before they meet with you. It's perfectly appropriate to ask them to see the industry analysis if that's something you're interested in. But the real purpose of that is really to get them immersed in what your business is about. Okay, so September 10th, roughly the first meeting with you. They have a very short 9 weeks to negotiate the content and actually complete the research phase of the project. It's not a lot of time. That goes by very, very quickly. So students come in with a mindset, it's a 16-week semester, got lots of time. We really, that first 3 weeks, we just pound it in them. You've only got 9 weeks. And if you take a week out for understanding, you've only got 8 weeks. So your project plan, they do a PERT chart or a Gantt chart of their project plan. You've got 8 weeks to actually complete the project. Very important. A couple weeks to write a report. There's a presentation that they'll give on campus. And then there's a trade show held on December 13th at California Center for the Arts. You'll get invitations. Don't worry about taking notes on dates. You'll get all this information from me in email form in the next 24 to 48 hours. So that's kind of the timeline. So this is just a summary of what you former sponsors have told me what the best practices are or things that we've learned. We've put a lot of emphasis on how to be a good sponsor. That's part of this meeting. So you want to be as clear, concise as possible as to what the project objectives are. So you have a problem statement and 3 to 5 key objectives. Be very clear what those are. Okay, and that's what that first meeting is about, to talk about your business, talk about why this is a problem, talk about what the objectives are, and make sure they understand what those are. If we can get that down, chances of success are very, very high. It's also important in that first meeting to explain the value of the project. Let them know you're counting on them for something, okay? And if they have a successful result, what the follow-on plans. What do you plan to do with this data? I mean, what use is this to you? So that's important because that's a motivating element for them. If you're going to meet regularly with a team, and I'd suggest you meet with them once a week for the first couple of weeks until you feel comfortable they're making good progress, it's not necessary. You determine how often you meet with them and when. But if you do decide to meet regularly, given their schedules and your schedules, it's best to schedule that well in advance and have it at a regular time. Okay? Specify the desired form of communication. These students are very capable of doing every form of electronic communication, so whatever you're comfortable with. But there will be one person on that team that will be your primary contact, so you don't have 5 people calling you or emailing you, and they're required to report to you once a week. Here's what we're doing. Here's some problems we've run into. Here's the plans for the next week. So they'll ask what dominant communication mechanism. It can be email, whatever again, they're very adaptable, and that's up to you to decide that. And then a lot of sponsors say, a lot of heavy front-loaded communication. Make sure they understand where they're headed up front. Say it again, and repeat it again. And then try to narrow your expectations. We don't do world hunger problems very well, so try to get them started early and fast. Now, of course, that's what your advisor will also assist the team in doing that, scoping that down.
We haven't tried that one yet.
Pardon me?
In all fairness, we haven't tried that one yet.
Which one? Oh, World Hunger? Well, we've had some applications. I just haven't accepted any of them. In fact, we have a couple sponsors who I will not point out that had World Hunger problems that we turned down. You'll hear Roger and Jim and a couple of the other sponsors. There's Roger. Roger's one of the great people. He helps the team. He brings in all kind of external resources. We did a project for him a couple of years ago on energy conservation in his manufacturing. Just an awesome job bringing all he contacted Semper Energy and consultants. The team found themselves immersed in this group of subject matter experts, not just including Datron, but people outside. So if your project's appropriate for that, for heaven's sakes, yes, use that. So some sponsors do that really well. I'm sure Roger will say more about that. Don't coddle the team. They are college students, but treat them as professionals. Expect professional behavior. Set your expectations a little lower than that, but the idea is don't think of them as as a bunch of young kids. They are, but but they're not. So if you do have issues with a team, raise it very promptly. If you see someone not carrying their weight, not responding to emails, whatever the issue happens to be, please let them know right away. In 8 weeks, if you wait 3 weeks to notify them that there's a problem, that's too late. There's not enough time to recover. So call them on it. Be disciplined just like you would with an employee in your organization. And then if you're not getting the results you expect right away, notify their advisor. And then I jump in on about 20% of all projects. They don't like to have meetings where I call a team meeting, hey, what's going on? The sponsor says they haven't heard from you for 3 weeks. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen very often, but we can play good cop, bad cop there. We ask you to be responsive to any team questions within 24 to 48 hours. If you have an extended trip out of town, nominate someone to be the secondary contact. So if the team has a question, you don't want them to wait 2 weeks for an answer because that's 25% of their research time. Okay, any questions for me before we move on to the more knowledgeable sponsors? Yeah?
A student who's kicked off the team.
Yes.
How does that affect
They repeat their senior year. They have to repeat, yeah. You've all heard me say this, and there's another thread I hold to the team, which we've never done. I tell the team that if you come to me and say, Bill here didn't do his part of the project, should have told you 8 weeks ago, we're at the end of the semester, we'd like to fire him here at the end of the semester. Say the whole team's fired. Bill didn't do his job, but you as a team didn't hold him accountable. We've never done that, but we tell them that because we want the team to own the project and own responsibility for and accountability for each other. So, yes?
The presentation that's done at the end of the semester.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you'll be invited. Yes. Yep. And then if you choose, it's something you can negotiate with the team. It's appropriate in some cases to have that presentation done at the sponsor site. So sometimes your board of directors want to hear what the team did. We do those kinds of things all the time. That's really up to you. Again, that's a negotiated content element between you and the team. Okay, oh yes, Brian.
Jim, how many credit hours?
It's 5 units, 5 credit hours. And they'll typically be taking 12 units this semester. It depends, anywhere from 10 to could be as high as 16. So this will be a substantial portion of their academic load. It's typically their last semester of their senior year. Okay, I'm going to hang around after for questions, so let's just move on. Let me introduce Jim Ponder. He's the CEO of Turnkey Strategic Relations. Jim was a new sponsor last semester, did an outstanding job, so I'll...
Morning. How's everyone? Good, good. Well, last year, as Jim said, was our first experience with this program. And I just want to start by saying it is an incredible program, and it's just a tremendous gift. I know, Roger, we talked last year and different things. And, you know, it's really an amazing thing that you will be able to do. So I want to stress a couple of things. I thought about, what do I want to say? There's so much to say, because last year, when some of the sponsors spoke, that's when I was just taking notes and really thinking about what will help me with this experience. So I want to talk about the first meeting. It's very, very important. You filled out an application, you put a lot of things in there, but there's nothing like seeing this student team face to face. Have them really understand not just the what, but the why. Why is this important to you? Short term, mid-term, long term. We looked them in the eye and we said, listen, we know you're students. We're going to treat you like adults, like business people, but we expect the same level out of you that we would have if we hired a team of consultants. We would normally pay $10,000 to $15,000 or more for this project, and we expect no less than that out of you. They like that. They like being treated that way. But at that meeting, let them know you, not just your company, but you. What makes you tick? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Introduce them to some of your other team. Ask them about what they like to do. What are they planning to do after college? Establish a rapport with them that goes beyond just being transactional. That's going to be very important as you move forward. Get all of their contact information. One of the things that happened with us is we had a lead. Jim talked about there will be a lead on the team. My recommendation is don't have your communication just with that lead. Every time you communicate with the team, copy the entire team and the advisor. Because what happened to us is the lead wasn't letting everyone else know what was going on between us and them. And that created some issues downstream. Nothing that couldn't be worked out, but it would have been nice to have had that at the beginning. Communication. Jim talked about the different meetings to set up. I would highly recommend a minimum of every other week a face-to-face with your team. Make sure you assign one person. Remember, this is a two-way street. We talk a lot about them, but you have responsibility as well. So who's your point person going to be? And the 24 to 48 hours getting back to them, that is absolutely critical because they don't have much time. These kids are incredibly, young adults are incredibly busy. They've got a lot of schedules. Many of them are also working. So this is one thing amongst many that they're doing. Use some sort of a communication device. We like Trello. It's a free program. Trello is excellent for tracking a program. Have them log in and let you know what you're doing. You can check in, log in online and see exactly where that program is and how it's progressing. Set milestones right up front. What's going to be done and when is it going to be done? A missed milestone is a problem. So you've got to really see if they've missed a date, you need to really check into it immediately. What happened here, what slowed you down, make sure that there's not an issue. That comes to accountability. It's very important to have those meetings and have that accountability. And the final couple of things I would say is be a resource. Talked about bringing in third parties. We had them do a project where they looked at our entire virtual footprint, they looked at social media, and ultimately redesigned our entire web presence. Qualcomm happens to be a client of ours, and so we sent them out to Qualcomm. And they got the VIP tour, they got to talk about what are they doing in social media, what are they doing with web presence, what are they doing with mobile applications. We had them speak to our graphics designer and a number of other people, and that was very helpful to them. So really give them the resources you can. take the project seriously and deliver as you promise. So make sure that if they need something, you're delivering it when they need it, or you will be the one slowing them down. We had a great experience. We got the website completely done. We just got it finally live last week, but it was no issue of theirs. We just realized we needed a few other tweaks to it. Once the project was done, it was a good experience. There will be some bumps along the way. Get to know your advisor. It's very important to have a great relationship with the advisor, but focus on the team. That's who's doing the work. The advisor's there to make sure that it's happening, and they're meeting with the team behind the scenes. Those are my suggestions. Questions?
What was your main goal or objective of your project?
Our main goal was we wanted to take a look at, as I mentioned earlier, our virtual footprint and really think about our website had been 5 years old. It was not anywhere close to what we're doing today as a company. So what we laid out for them is who we are today and where we're headed. And we wanted to make sure we had a website that was expandable. We're partnering with an e-learning company right now. We wanted to make sure that we could partner with their platform and easily fold that in. And we wanted them to come up with a social media strategy for a company like ours. And we really got almost all of that, which was great.
That tool you mentioned, Trello, how do you spell that?
Trello. There's Trello, there's Basecamp. You can use Google Docs, but Trello is something we use for our own in-house purposes and working with our people who are designing web apps for us.
As an advisor, should we be guiding them to look inside the organization for the types of, like, I know some of my groups have used SharePoint, but they've had to be trained on the sponsor's side. So would you prefer them to adapt to your systems, or do you want your people to adapt to our systems or the students' choices?
For me personally, it doesn't matter as long as there's a system in place, because I think because we live in the age of technology that we live in, we can be up to date every minute on what's going on with that program. We just like Trello because it's super easy. Anyone can learn it and learn it quickly. All right, thank you. I gotta run. Thank you.
I got to get this off. Next, I'm going to introduce Pope, who is with California Coast Credit Union. She was also, I think, a new sponsor last semester. Yeah, so Pope, thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, for everybody that's a returning sponsor, I want to welcome you back. And for those of you that's a first-time sponsor, I want to congratulate you because you're about to embark on a great journey with 4 to 5 students who are amazing and will give you, hopefully, exactly what you're asking for. I have to echo what Jim was saying, and, well, what both Jims, I guess, were saying, in terms of what to expect from your students. With our company, our project was we wanted to increase our footprint within the Generation Y group. So how do we get Gen Y to become a member of the credit union, and what are the things that they're looking for that we can help, to entice them to come see us instead of some of our competitors and the big banks, which are the traditional places that they seem to be going to. What we found was the first meeting, it's not only important that they know and come with an agenda, but we needed to be clear on what we were doing. So our first meeting was a little bit of a flop, only on our part, really, because the kids came and they had their agenda, they'd read our project, and their advisor knew, but our team hadn't talked. So we had like 4 people in the meeting with them, the director of marketing, the VP of marketing, and my boss, the community relations manager and communications manager. And we're sitting there, and it was almost like we didn't know what we wanted, even though we had written the project. So they had these questions, and we didn't all have the same answer because we all kind of thought something, so we needed to, it's important that if you're going to go into a meeting with these students and there's going to be more than you, that you've all spoken and that you're all speaking the same speak. So that's one really small thing, but it's, just having everyone on the same page. Also, the accountability thing. Once we did get started, I was responsible for communicating with the students I was their point of contact, but I was really busy, so shame on me. But there were times when I didn't hold them accountable. They said they would do something, and I didn't get it, and then I would wait, and I would wait, and then I still didn't get it, and then it would be 2 weeks later. And as Jim said, that's too much time. They only have 8 weeks. They've lost a week. It's, and so then I wouldn't communicate back to them and tell them, hey, you needed to do this. You promised you'd have this by then, and they didn't. And in the end, one of the things that was really reflective of my lack of holding them accountable was we didn't get our project until long after they did their presentation and the trade show. So we actually had to wait for them to give us the actual printed document, which wasn't a good place for me to be, because then I had to explain it to our senior management team as to why that didn't happen, and it was as much my fault as it was theirs. So I think that that's really important, is really, truly, truly holding the students accountable for, I say I'm going to do this. If it's not done, why isn't it done? What can I do to help you? Where did I fail you? Or where have you failed me? And doing things like that. Other than that, honestly, I think the students are great. Keeping on top of them, treating them like they are business owners themselves, like this is their consulting firm, and not coddling them at all. Because I think one of the other things that happened was, I'm an alum, I went to school here, I know how hard it can be, we've all been students, and I thought, oh, but they have so much to do, it's okay. But it's really not okay, because you know what? I work, and I have like 500 other things I'm doing. It may not be school, but I get it done, and so they needed to get it done. So those would be really like the only pieces of advice I really have. But it's a great project, and I think the whole program is a great program. And Professor Hammerly does an amazing job, so he's a great resource, as well as the advisors and our advisor, who I love. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
Questions for Cool. Thank you. Last but not least, Roger Gillespie, a multi-year sponsor from Datron.
Good morning. I want to start a little bit about talking about the target-rich environment at Datron, because it'll talk about why I'm so active with Jim. We are electronic manufacturer, Datron World Communications and Vista. We manufacture two-way HF, VHF, and public safety radio product. And we're literally a vertically integrated factory. So we build from the circuit board to the CNC machined housings, powder coating. So we're a total manufacturer. $180 million the previous year. It looks like we're going to do about $110 million this year. That gives you an idea of the magnitude of the size of the company. So I say it's target rich because we have all of these different disciplines that you can apply these senior experience projects to. So I've had the fortunate honor. I kind of got this from my boss, who is, and I think he has the standing record for the amount of senior projects he's done, and I'm competing with him. I've been involved in 6 projects over the last 3 semesters. I have 2 coming up this semester. And what I try to do is do one myself, but recruit somebody internally, because I'm trying to infect everybody else with this at Datron. And we've had amazing results. It's an honor to participate in this. I think I get more out of it than the students do. I'm a highly relational person. I'm very proud of that. And that's what works really well. Jim, he's gone now, but his point about the first thing I do with students when they walk into the first meeting is I get to know them. And I ask them who they are, where they grew up, what they want to be when they grow up, stuff about their family. Tell them about my personal life. So that relational thing, that's a big piece of another aspect that we have at Datron that has a lot to do with why we do this in the community. We also have a Servant Leader Institute where we train in a very provocative style of leadership. And it's something we're very, very passionate about. It's not a sign on the wall. It's in our heart. And so we also are working with the students to influence them about behaviors in leadership. And David Bennett teaches courses in leadership. I've actually had students talk to me about that. That's the most refreshing thing in today's culture that anybody could experience. So by getting to know these students and seeing their behavior and working on team dynamics, which that's the thing that works. If you work on team dynamics, if you follow Jim's process, it'll work. If you don't follow the process, it won't work. if your students and the faculty advisor are deviating at all from the process, catch on to that and address it and pull them back. The couple of projects that we've done that are pretty instrumental in explaining the experience and what went good and what went bad. I honestly don't have a lot of bad experiences. And I think I know that it's because we followed the process. When we saw them, fall in a little bit of a pit hole, we'd pull them back. We did an energy management project that Jim mentioned, which basically the end project results in over $1 million in savings over the 9 years that remained in our lease, having to do with changing lighting to newer technology, HVAC controls, and while I'm the facilities director, that's kind of one of the hats I wear. That's not my core competency, but the relationships, I'm back to this leadership thing, we have relationships in the community. So I didn't go get them the answer, but what we did, what Jim was referring to, and it scared the daylights out of these students. In our boardroom, which looks like Wall Street, we pulled in subject matter experts. I had the president of our architecting firm, the chief operating officer from our prime contractor who does our construction, a couple of different electrical engineers, a lot of emphasis in electricity, obviously, HVAC guys, and Juanita Hayes, who's the community relations person with SDG&E, Sempra Energy. She brought her project person and the engineer. And the point was, this is your subject matter expert panel. We pre-negotiated this with this group. They donated their time to the project. Now, this is a huge thing. And I think it scared the daylights out of Jim when he looked at what we were doing. But I knew the relationships of these people and how they could influence these students. And it really, really worked. So any project that you have where you can look at best practices and get them exposed into the business community, that's just saturate them with that. We've used the similar technique, but it wasn't as deep of a technical content on other projects that we did. The other really meaningful project that we just finished was test equipment asset management. We have about $4 million worth of test equipment. This is another one that scared the daylights out of Jim when I shared it with him because it looked really complicated. You take all these 3 databases, our company has doubled in size over the last 7 years. And we're like drinking out of Niagara Falls. We're so busy. And so certain things we haven't been able to keep up with. And test equipment is crucial to our application, and we've really lost control. And so I looked at it like, wow, this is a perfect opportunity. And all we did was narrowed their scope to a couple hundred line items. We said if it'll work for these, it'll work for all $4 million. Take this, go out into the business network, and we pointed them to different calibration labs and professionals in the community that we knew, just like the expert panel. They fed them the information, and they created a report that basically recommended a way of doing a barcoded kiosk for basically checking test equipment in and out of a storeroom. Currently, it's if you have a piece of test equipment and you left for lunch, I come over and borrow it. Now, we don't actually do that, but it's almost literally that bad. So the cool part is our test manager, our director of test, just 2 days ago, he kind of caught me off guard. He goes, I hear you have some kind of asset management thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? He had heard about this. We just finished the project, and he's in the process of implementing it. He took the report, and he's in the process of implementing it. So it works. What works is if you put that energy in it, what you get is something that you can actually apply to your business. We have a couple projects. The one we did with HR onboarding, something else we're not really good at. We've been growing too fast. That was a project we did last semester, and we're in the process of trying to figure out how to go implement that. It's a touchy, soft thing. There are a couple of projects that we did on cycle time management. Every one of those projects yielded significant cost savings, or improve business process for us. What doesn't work, or some of the pitfalls that I could warn you about, specifically that are in Jim's process. The very first meeting is a very nervous situation for these kids. A lot of our students showed up in neckties and suits, and if you emphasize the importance of they're your contractor and what you expect from them is for them to give you a solution. And what is in their agreement, in their contract with you, hold them accountable for that. Anytime we found them deviating from that, we'd pull them back. The mechanics of how you do that can be a pitfall. We caught it a couple times and pulled it back. It's interesting because we talked about the Gen Y aspect and, what do you use? What works for them? My recommendation is use what works for them. Don't force what you have on them. I mean, if you have a reason that you have to, help them to understand that. But don't encumber them with learning something new. Help them get their project done and tolerate if they want to use GoogleNet, if that works for them. Our teams, most all of our teams use that, and it was very proficient for them. What they have a hard time with is grasping project management. And I'm a freak about this because, we have a very intricate process that we have to follow in our business, and their tendency is they have it all up here. And the point is, project management is only effective if you're sharing what you learn. So I think the most important thing I could emphasize to you that Jim touched on as well is communication. And the best vehicle to communicate is minutes from every one of your meetings that your faculty advisor, your faculty sponsor, and every member of the team is on. We maintained a point-to-point contact with the team lead, but it was emphasized, and we would test it in every meeting, that everybody on the team had seen the minutes. So that becomes your communication vehicle, and get them regimented about that. The other thing in closing that really works, and it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. The last test equipment management team that we had, someone we've invested in the community, in another business enterprise, basically came to me and was looking for an intern. Long story short, one of the kids in our last project, when he did his presentation, I was blown away. And my comment to him was, "You're hired." Well, he got a job, full-time job as a material specialist, and he's loving it. So we had influence over someone from your college, and they're affecting our business community. So that really works. Just yesterday, I got a note from the team lead from that team, just accepted an intern position in a nonprofit for a dear friend of mine, working through December. So that's what it's about, influencing these kids and making an impact on their life. And if you have that in your heart and you follow the process, it'll work. If you don't follow the process and you don't have it in your heart, it won't work. Questions? Yes, sir.
I didn't quite understand, you're talking about, making sure that everyone sees the minutes. So you're talking about the minutes of each group meeting that you have, or just the first
Yes.
meeting, or even?
Let me elaborate on that. We had weekly meetings on site, and would alternate a couple of times at the campus with the faculty advisor. Each one of those meetings, minutes were taken, talking specifically about the action items, and more importantly, going back to what their contract stated their deliverables were and the progress they were making on that. Make them report on that. How are they doing on their milestones? And put that in the minutes. And if, for instance, if they didn't quite get it and it was due last week, what's their new commit and who's got it and when will it be done? So hold them accountable and do that in writing through the whole group, faculty advisor, and faculty sponsor. Is that clear?
The transparency makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's all about transparency. In my world, for me personally, it's all transparency, relationship, and trust. Just being open and honest. David.
Well, I'll just be really quick because we definitely appreciate your time this morning, and it will help your project be more successful. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And as Dean Leitner pointed out in the beginning, this is the 20th year for Senior Experience. It's also the 10th year for another prominent program in the College of Business in the Executives Chair. Raise your hand if you're familiar with in the Executives Chair. Well, that is not a lot, but that's fantastic because that means we have an opportunity to get you more engaged in the stuff that College of Business is doing. In the Executives Chair is hosted by David Bennett and Raj Pillai. It is actually a class here on campus, but it is open to the community, and they bring in CEOs and various executives from the area to talk to the students about their experiences, personal and business, how they got to where they are, success stories, failures, everything. And the students get a really unique opportunity to hear a very personal story. And you have that opportunity as well to join and listen and learn. So now that you're here, you are officially on my distribution list. So you will be getting updates as far as the schedule for that course and those presentations. And when I say the anniversary year, the COBA 1020, 20-year senior experience, 10 years in the executive chair, you're now a part of that. Just by being in this room, and many of you are returning advisors and project sponsors, you're a part of this anniversary. You're contributing to a very successful program. And we want you to be proud of that. We want you to really own the fact that you're a part of that and you're a part of the success and what our students are achieving. And this is all contributing back to the local economy, of course. So be proud of it. And throughout the year, we're going to be celebrating COBA 1020, and we want everyone to get excited about it and use these other opportunities to get engaged with the college. We also host CLIMB leadership seminars. CLIMB is our Center for Leadership Innovation and Mentorship Building, also run by David Bennett and Raj Pillai. They host leadership seminars once a semester. Those are free to attend. Again, you'll get on that distribution list and you'll be aware of those. So there are a lot of opportunities to come and learn. Our Business Confidence Report is a Jim Hammerly production, and it's a survey of local businesses, and we have the report available up here if you're interested for 2012. But we asked different businesses, how do you feel about the coming year for your industry? Where do you see yourself in hiring, and other questions like that, to get a perspective of what your colleagues think about the economy. And that was based on the fact that peer point of view was the most valuable perspective for most business owners. So just a way that we're trying to get more involved in the community and provide more resources. We also host various business seminars. Most recently, we had a viticulture and enology seminar run by Ron Jervis and David Bennett. This is a very David Bennett-centric presentation right now. And we're hosting another one in November it's a viticulture and enology series. So anybody who's interested in learning more about that, starting your own winery or getting involved in the industry, that's a great opportunity. And we're also hosting a patent leadership seminar in the spring. So there are a lot of different things going on in the college that we'll keep everybody aware of. We're also very involved in the local chambers of commerce. The university here has a program called Chamber Champions where we're involved in 13 chambers of commerce regionally. And so as far as getting connected, if you're interested, come talk to us, see what's going on, see what we're into, if you're interested in getting involved with us more. And then Chairman's Roundtable, if you've never heard of that program, that's another group that we're heavily involved with. Again, David Bennett has connected us with that group. And this is a group of, are they all retired or active CE executives? Okay, so retired and active executives who coach and mentor new startup businesses through their beginning stages, or actually they're about midway, right? And so we've actually connected a lot of startup businesses with that group to help them with success. So boiling it all down, we have a lot of opportunity for you to get involved in the college, and there's even more opportunities if you're interested in getting involved in student learning, if anybody's interested in those opportunities. I will be around to answer questions afterwards. We have a lot of information up here. If you're interested, please take. And of course, at your seat, you have a flyer for our very exciting upcoming fundraiser, the COBA Wine, Food, and Brew Festival. You will be getting an email about that. Please do attend. Early bird tickets are available now. They're $45. And it's 33 wineries, breweries, and restaurants. There's food, wine, friends, fun, music, silent and live auction, and all of the money raised is used to support programs like Senior Experience, like in the Executive Chair, like the CLIMB leadership programs, to help students and further our educational development. So thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions? real quick? Okay.
So, unless there are further questions, we're going to conclude a little bit early. That's always a good thing. We always try to end class early. There are no quizzes, so we won't quiz you on what you learned today. Thank you so much, particularly the sponsors and advisors for taking time out of, I know, your busy schedules to attend and hear about the program. You'll be receiving from me in the next 48 hours kind of a summary of your project as we understand it, timeline, that sort of thing, and then expect to hear from me on or about September 1st about hopefully your assigned team. And with that, thank you again very much, and we'll look forward to a good semester of working together with you. Thanks.